If you're into fantasy sports, especially football, you already know Fantasy Premier League dominates everything. Millions of players worldwide, endless content, the undisputed king of fantasy football. But here's the thing. It's actually the least fun way to experience fantasy sports. I only played Fantasy Premier League for a few years because honestly, it's that bad. There's no soul to it, no spark. It's like managing a corporation instead of building your dream team. Today, I'm breaking down exactly why FPL feels so soulless, and most importantly, how platforms like Sleeper could completely revolutionize fantasy football using the NFL's proven blueprint. If you're tired of managing everyone else's team instead of your team, this might change how you play forever. Really quickly, if you would like to join a community who would bring you soup when you're feeling under the weather, you should subscribe to the channel and join the other 4,400 bucks. On with the video. Here's the fundamental issue with the FPL. You can, and often do, play the exact same players as everyone else you're competing against. Now, full disclosure, I actually love this mechanic in certain formats. When I dabble in daily fantasy sports, I prefer the DFS model on platforms like DraftKings or FanDuel for the NFL. You're betting against real people, not some faceless sports book. I can out-research the average player, pour hours into matchups and injury reports, and if my pick hits, I cash out. It's thrilling head-to-head competition where every edge matters. But here's the problem. What works brilliantly for DFS completely fails in a season-long format like the FPL. In daily fantasy, you're dealing with salary caps, and yes, optimal lineups might overlap. Maybe we both grab the same star quarterback, but the goal is to differentiate just enough to cash in tournaments. It's quick, it's weekly, and there's real money on the line up front. FPL tries to mash this impersonal week-to-week gambling structure into something that's supposed to feel like your team over an entire season, but it doesn't work. Why? Because there's no real reward for nailing unique picks. If everyone captained the same hot striker and he scores a hat trick, great, we all get the same massive points. But if you spot an underrated gem that nobody else has, it barely moves the needle on that massive global leaderboard. Your transfers feel like tweaks to a generic spreadsheet, not investments in your squad. I know that the smaller private leagues help somewhat. Shout out to my friends who are running 30 to 40 person competitions. It narrows the field and makes rivalries slightly more personal. But even then, half the teams end up with identical lineups. The same Haaland, the same Salah, the same defensive foundations. It's still deeply impersonal. This isn't your team. It's a collective hive mind roster chasing the same meta. And the burnout is real. I check out after a couple of weeks because the rewards for smart transfers or climbing the ranks, they're practically non-existent. Look, I don't hate this format entirely. I use DFS religiously during NFL weekends because it's impersonal by design. It scratches that competitive gambling itch and gives me action even when injuries destroy my main fantasy team. But FPL is trying to force a square peg into a round hole, pretending that weekly gambling builds lasting emotional investment. Before we fix football fantasy, let's kind of define what fantasy sports should be at its core. Fantasy sports take real game statistics, goals, assists, tackles, and converts them into points for you to accumulate. Then you compete, head-to-head against friends or on leaderboards against other managers. It democratizes sports, turning passive viewing into active strategy. But the magic happens when it feels personal, like you're managing a real franchise. Enter NFL fantasy football, the undisputed champion of this genre. I've been running a league with friends and family for years, and it's absolute gold. We start with an auction draft where everybody gets together and has an equal budget and bids on the players they want. It's chaotic, fun, and personal from minute one. Once the season starts, it's head-to-head matchups every single week. Wins and losses build into records. Rivalries ignite, especially in divisions where you face the same opponent multiple times. And the top 6 teams make playoffs. Single elimination knockouts to crown the champion. Why does this format absolutely crush everything else? It is deeply personal. That sleeper wide receiver you snagged in round 12, he's yours alone. Your emotional investment skyrockets when he explodes for 30 points or completely disappears. Trades happen mid-season. You're swapping studs for depth, negotiating like actual GMs, and suddenly your roster has a real story. Competition stays fierce because one bad week in playoffs means elimination. Every week matters. And the branding. We name our teams. I have like 5 different team names. North Dakota Cornhuskers, Idaho Potato Peelers, and Patty's Pastures are the top-notch ones. I create logos, even print custom merchandise. Whether you're a diehard NFL fan or just love the strategy, this format breeds genuine passion. This is about pride, real rivalries, and that sweet taste of victory over your brother-in-law. So, if NFL fantasy is the perfect blueprint, why can't soccer follow the same path? I'm genuinely optimistic because the best NFL platform sleeper, and I really don't care if you disagree, you're wrong, has already moved into soccer. They offer Fantasy Premier League, Fantasy La Liga, and Fantasy Bundesliga formats. The beauty, it mirrors real football structure, but amplifies the personal stakes. Instead of FPL's endless global grind, imagine drafting your squad at the start of the season, auction or snake draft style, for a league between 4 or 20 teams. That becomes your core team, your stars, your sleepers, locked in to fight for you all season long. Head-to-head matchups each game week build into a proper table, just like the real Premier League. Top teams could even enter knockout playoffs for extra drama. Who wouldn't want a fantasy FA Cup? I actually tested this concept. The day before the 24-25 Premier League season kicked off, I was scrolling through Sleeper and discovered they had this league available. Shocked, but excited, I quickly rallied some friends for a 10-team league. We drafted our squads, set our lineups, and that's our team for the entire season. There's still a waiver wire for adjustments. You can grab that breakout young player who wasn't drafted, or adapt to transfer window moves like a new signing shaking up team depth. But your core roster, that's yours. No more weekly resets that dilute any sense of ownership. Next season, I'm expanding to a full 20-team league. Everyone drafts complete squads. We simulate Premier League standings and battle head-to-head each week. It's night and day compared to FPL's 5 million person leaderboard, where rosters blur into identical mediocrity. That massive anonymous format has its place in daily fantasy tournaments for quick thrills and potential cash prizes. But for season-long fantasy, which should be about building something personal and meaningful, it's the most unoptimized system imaginable. Fantasy Premier League might have the biggest player base, but popularity does not equal fun or engagement. If you're craving that personal connection, the drafts, the trades, the genuine rivalries that make you care about random Tuesday night matches, it's time to ditch the global grind and try custom leagues on Sleeper or anywhere else. I think there's a couple other platforms that have it. It's indefinitely closer to NFL's fantasy's proven magic, and for football fans, it could make the Premier League feel even more epic than it already is. What do you think? Have you tried Sleeper's Fantasy Premier League, or are you just a diehard FPL defender ready to argue in the comments? Drop your thoughts below. Smash that gosh darn like button, baby, if this resonates with you in any way. Subscribe for more just football in general, and hit the bell so you don't miss next week's video. Thank you.